This is huge for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to be talking about a recent injury update for Lonzo Ball, along with some key takeaways that the Chicago Bulls are going to have to get better at as they continue their season. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today, let's go ahead and jump into the first topic around the Chicago Bulls, and that is going to be the injury update status here for Lonzo Ball. As it looks like that Lonzo is going to not be playing against the Milwaukee Bucks. It is the first game of a back-to-back sequence, and it looks like that next game is going to be the home opener for the Bulls, and it is against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And so initially, when I heard this news, I'm thinking that this is perfect, I think, for Lonzo Ball. I think that this makes a lot of sense to have Lonzo out there in that home opener. And I think for the team, it is going to be huge because they're going to need that energy. I think that there's going to be a lot of energy in the arena. And I think that Lonzo is going to come out with a lot of energy as well. And that's something that we are definitely going to need. Who knows what's going to happen in this game against Milwaukee. So it could be we need to go ahead and have that energy to get our first win of the season. And so, just kind of circling back to what Lonzo did against the Pelicans, I think that you got a chance to see him out there and really be impactful. You got a chance to see that high basketball IQ on display, especially when he threw that alley-oop pass out to Zach Lavine. You really get a chance to see just, I think, some retro Lonzo Ball kind of highlight clips. And so, I think that we can expect to see these type of impactful plays, I think, throughout the season. And I think from a stats situation, I think he's going to be impactful throughout. I don't care necessarily how many minutes he plays. I just think that he's going to play impactful minutes, which I think is something that he wanted to do, something that he said actually after the game, because in that last game against the Pelicans, he was a plus in the plus minus box score, but he had 5 points. He had the 4 assists. He had 2 rebounds. And so he was everywhere out there. And so we're going to need that. And I think that that's going to be huge for this young team as they're trying to figure out how to play in this new style. And, Lonzo is a guy that even though he's coming off and, being out an extended amount of time, he's really been able to come in, take this system. He's been able to run the offense. And I think defensively, which is one of the things he thought he was going to struggle at, I think he's looked pretty good for the most part. And I think he's going to get even better as there's no setbacks and he continues to get on a rhythm here. And I think that this is something that's going to be huge for the Chicago Bulls. But that's the recent update around Lonzo. And so now just shifting focus and looking at, I think, some key takeaways from the loss that the Chicago Bulls had against the Pelicans. And I think these takeaways are something that is going to have to not only be corrected against the Milwaukee Bucks, but I think it's going to be something that the Bulls are just really going to have to be, I think, conscious of as the season goes along, because I think that this is part of really the long-term build for the Chicago Bulls. And so when we look at the box score, I mean, there's several things that you could look at that just screams it went wrong for the Chicago Bulls. But the one glaring thing for me when I look at this and this year that I've said is all about the growth and the development of players, when you see players like Julian Phillips only getting 12 minutes and you see Modest Buzelis only getting 5 minutes and then you see Dalen Terry only getting 2 minutes, I just think that in order for the Chicago Bulls to get to a point where they're going to be a contender again, if that's what they're looking to do, I would suspect so. But you have to figure out what you have. I think that by not playing these players enough, you're really hurting yourself as far as the long-term process of getting there. Because, when you go out there and you give minutes to, some of our players like Zach Lavine and Vooch, they played 30 minutes. When this game kind of got away from us, I think that that's when you really need to see a little bit more of Modest Buzelis. You need to see Dalen Terry. You need to see Julian Phillips. And I think you need to somehow get them in the game even when we're in it. And you need to give them an extended run to see exactly how they're going to respond. Especially if these are players that you're going to be counting on for the long term, then it would make sense for them to get out there, get some actual game experience, and understand how this offense is going to work, understand the defensive principles that you're trying to execute. Even though I know, just from a foundational standpoint on the offense and the defensive end, it's clear that this team has a lot of work to do. And that's something that we knew is going to happen. When you're playing a new style, it's not like this team has been doing this for years. Like, it's not a system that they played last year. It's not a system that they played the year before that or the year before that. When you look at teams that have traditionally won, they build a system and they stick with it. And the Chicago Bulls, they came into this first game, and yes, it's great that they practiced with the 14 seconds and things like that. But until you get some of these players on the roster who are experienced in playing that way on the offense and the defensive end, for quite some time, you're going to get these kind of results where, they get into these adverse situations and then they reverted back to some of the old habits that they had done before in the past. I mean, offensively, they got to a point where they were just standing around and it just wasn't efficient. It wasn't clicking like it happened in preseason. And I know it's preseason basketball there, and the regular seasons is going to be a different type of beast for you. But, you've got to really continue to build these habits. You have to continue to get a structure here. And you have to figure out, who is going to be a part of that structure. And this is something that the Chicago Bulls are going to have to address, not just against the Milwaukee Bucks, but again, just for the entirety of the season. And I think when you look at the glaring things in the team box score with the 21 turnovers, you look at the missed three-point shots and things like that, it all comes down to just going out there and being in a position where you're comfortable in this system, and then also to getting the right players. The only way you get there is you got to continue to evaluate players, and you've got to move some players out of the way. This is where Billy Donovan is going to have to get into his coaching bag. At some point, he's going to have to manage some egos, because, as much as they've gone out there and they've invested into Patrick Williams at this point in time, and I get it if you feel like he's going to be a part of your future or whatnot, but if I've got other players behind you that look like they're immediately ready to impact this team and beyond, then we're going to have to push those players up. And that would be the same, I think, for some of these veteran players as well. And so, with that being said, let me know in the comments, what was your biggest takeaway from that loss against the Pelicans? And do you feel like, yes, Billy Donovan is going to have to try to figure out ways to get these younger players into these games, regardless if it's a blowout or if we're into these games, whatever the situation, in order to go ahead and make sure that this team gets to where it wants to for the long-term situation. So love to hear what your thoughts are. I just want to thank everybody out there for liking, subscribing, and sharing the content. It means a lot to us here at Bulls Digest as we try to get to this goal of 5,000 subscribers. I just want to encourage everybody to continue to go ahead and slam dunk on that subscribe button. It means a lot for us here at Bulls Digest. And look, even though the Chicago Bulls look like they are clearly still trying to figure a lot of things out, I'm still saying go Bulls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.